The announcement came without ceremony, as if the instructors were reading off a safety notice instead of a sentence. The briefing amphitheater sat half-buried in the scrub hills, all basalt ribs and pale mesh canopies that filtered the harsh noon glare into a dull, clinical light. Cadets from a dozen species filled the stepped benches in layered colors and mismatched anatomy, scaled shoulders pressed beside furred spines, armored plates beside exposed membranes. The air held the sharp tang of disinfectant and the faint metallic smell of charging field emitters. Every eye track and heat pit pointed toward the dais where Commander Vesk stood, rigid as a cut-stone, his crest angled forward in displeasure. He was famous for two things: a spotless record in pursuit exercises and a contempt that never rose to anger because contempt, in his mind, did not require heat. He wore his uniform like an accusation. Beside him hovered the range marshal, a thin-limbed woman with a data slate floating at her wrist. She looked bored in the way only someone with absolute authority could look bored. "The next evaluation is designated Hide and Hunt," Vesk said. His translator rendered the consonants into sharp-edged English. "1 subject, 1 hour. After that hour, the pursuit begins. The subject remains within the boundary at all times. The pursuit units have full authorization to track, flush, corner, and force surrender." A ripple moved through the benches, not quite sound, more a synchronized shift of anticipation. Some cadets flexed claws. Others tasted the air. Several looked in the human's direction with open curiosity and a predator's private satisfaction. The Joint Academy loved these public assessments, especially the ones framed as demonstrations. The instructors said it built mutual respect. The cadets knew it built hierarchy. The human sat 3 rows up from the floor, hands folded loosely, back straight. He did not fidget, which earned him a few puzzled glances from cadets who equated calm with ignorance. His name in the roster was Jonah Hale, but the instructors rarely used it. Vesk preferred human. The word carried enough implication to serve as a lesson. Vesk's crest lifted a fraction. "The subject is human Cadet Hale." A low murmur broke. A Carthian in the second row bared blunt teeth and made a clicking sound of amusement. A tall avian cadet leaned toward her neighbor and whispered something that sounded like a bet. Jonah felt the moment stretch, the way a room leaned forward when it expected entertainment. He kept his eyes on the dais. He had learned that looking away invited the wrong kind of attention. Looking angry invited a challenge. Looking afraid invited applause. The marshal's slate chimed softly. "Boundary parameters loaded," she said. "Environmental controls stable. No lethal fauna present beyond approved deterrent classes. Medic teams staged." "No lethal fauna," someone behind Jonah muttered in accented English. "Except the pursuit." Vesk continued as if he had not heard. "Pursuit units will consist of 3 hunter teams, each team led by an instructor. Tracking aids permitted. Sensor drones permitted. Scent triangulation permitted. Thermal mapping permitted. The subject may use only what can be carried during the 1-hour preparation window. No external assistance, no sabotage of academy equipment, no harm to other cadets." His gaze swept the benches, pausing on Jonah long enough to make the pause deliberate. "The subject will not be permitted to leave the boundary. The boundary field will provide mild deterrent shock upon contact. The subject will surrender upon capture. Failure to surrender will be scored as a psychological deficit." A few cadets chuckled at that, as if stubbornness was the only human flaw worth noting. Jonah inhaled through his nose. The air was dry, the disinfectant bite overlaid with warm stone and distant plant resin. The boundary shock detail interested him less than the phrase, "tracking aids permitted." That meant the hunt was not about fairness. That meant the hunt was about spectacle. He had seen enough academy exercises to recognize the pattern. The instructors enjoyed a clean narrative. Prey runs, predators track, prey exhausts, predators close, prey submits. The lesson was always the same. Instinct wins, technology wins, discipline wins. Humans were included in these narratives as a curiosity, a species whose endurance was praised in lectures and mocked in practice. The marshal finally looked up from her slate, eyes sharp. "Cadet Hale, step forward." Jonah rose. His boots made a soft thump on the composite steps as he descended. He felt dozens of gazes measure him, some with professional interest, some with hunger thinly disguised as academic assessment. He kept his face neutral. He could not afford to perform confidence for the crowd. Confidence could be read as arrogance. He chose instead to look attentive, almost polite, as if this were another routine drill. He stopped at the marked line before the dais. The floor panel under his boots was darker, scratched with old claw marks and scuffed by armor edges. Many cadets had stood here. Few had enjoyed it. Vesk looked down at him, head slightly tilted, as if evaluating a tool. "You have 1 hour to hide," he said. "Do you understand the rules, human?" "Yes, sir," Jonah answered. He kept his voice clear. He did not add anything that could be used against him. "Do you have questions?" Jonah let himself take one beat before speaking, as if considering. Questions were dangerous. Questions could sound like excuses. Still, information was worth the risk. "Are there designated shelters or restricted zones within the boundary?" The marshal's mouth twitched, amused. Vesk's crest angled in irritation. "No restricted zones beyond the boundary itself," Vesk said. "The terrain is your teacher. You will learn what it allows." Jonah nodded once. "Understood." The marshal flicked her fingers, and the hollow above the dais shifted. A translucent map bloomed into the air, a floating three-dimensional outline of the exercise range. It showed a shallow valley, a ribbon of dry creek bed, clusters of boulders, several stands of thorn scrub, and a long line of broken stone ridges that looked like old lava flows. Wind arrows moved across the map in slow pulses. Temperature gradients shimmered faintly. "Preparation starts when you enter the boundary," the marshal said. "Timekeeping will be visible to all observers. Pursuit begins at 0. Jonah's eyes tracked the wind arrows. The prevailing flow ran west to east, but the ridges created eddies. He marked the creek bed, the boulder clusters, the scrub stands. He did not look for the best hiding spot yet. He looked for what the hunters would assume was the best hiding spot. He looked for what a predator species raised on dominance drills would call obvious. A horn sounded, low, vibrating, felt more in the bones than heard. The benches quieted. The academy loved the sound cues. It made everything feel ancient and inevitable. 2 security drones glided forward, their lenses bright. The marshal gestured toward an open archway at the side of the amphitheater. Beyond it, a corridor led to the range access gate. Jonah turned and walked. He did not hurry. He did not want the crowd to think he was eager to run. He also did not want the instructors to suspect he had already decided on a plan. He kept his steps even, his breathing slow. The corridor smelled different. Less disinfectant, more dust and warmed polymer. Along the walls hung gear racks with sanctioned exercise items, neutral fabric strips, water canisters, a small coil of cord, adhesive patches, a dull folding entrenching tool, a compact foil blanket, a hand lantern with a low output mode. Nothing sharp enough to be called a weapon, nothing heavy enough to be called armor. Tools. The academy liked giving tools because tools proved the academy was fair, and because tools in the wrong hands provided more entertainment. A quartermaster, a stocky female of a horned species Jonah had never learned to pronounce correctly, stood beside the racks with a scanner. She watched Jonah approach with flat professional interest. "Cadet Hale," she said. "1 carry load, choose, no returns." Jonah stopped at the racks. He could feel the hour